Aloha and welcome everybody to another wonderful episode here on my Soul Talk every Friday / Saturday. And I'm so excited for my guest today. We're having Iris Angellys. I hope I said it right. She's author of Passion to Thrive, Reclaim Your Life's Potential, Passion, Power, and Purpose. A woman's empowerment book, and Your Body is the Portal to Your Soul, releasing soon, and a workshop facilitator and speaker. I'm so excited. Thank you for being here. How are you today?
Good. I'm so excited to be connecting with you and your audience. It's wonderful to have this experience with you.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about you. So how did you become an author and / facilitator?
So the facilitating came first. I'm a chiropractor and an applied kinesiologist as well. And there are a lot of really smart chiropractors out there who come up with these incredible techniques. So one of them is Dr. Darren Weissman, who's he calls it downloaded, the lifeline technique, which is the technique to identify unhelpful subconscious programs and substitute them with helpful ones. So that's a technique I've been involved with for, it must be about 12 years now, or something like that now. And what I love about it is that every time you do a lifeline, you up level and it's sustainable. I know you've probably been through situations or courses where like, yay, at the end of it. And then 3 days later, like, where did that all go? Right.
Yeah.
So with Lifeline, it's consistent and it's sustainable. So it's been a massive transformational force in my life. So I very quickly became a facilitator so that I could, offer the same thing to other people. And I still love it. Nice. And the book is quite funny because the first book, I was reading some material on archetypes and I was like, oh yeah, that's neat. And then suddenly these things started dropping in. I was like, oh, this is about this archetype and this is about that archetype. And I thought, oh, I better start writing this down. And it ended up, becoming a book. And it's a funny process that it literally felt like the book was floating out in space somewhere, looking for somebody willing to put finger to keyboard and type it in. And that turned out to be me. And then I was. It took a year from conception to actually releasing the book. And I was talking to a patient, and I told her I was writing this book, and I wasn't telling anybody because a lot of people are writing a book, but it never goes anywhere, right? And she said, "Oh, if you would like somebody to interview for your book, I'd be happy to be interviewed." And she's an amazing woman. I thought, oh, okay. So I interviewed her and 6 other women about, like women are spectacular, about their lives and what they've done, gone through, endured, learned, grown. And that just adds a lot of depth to that first book. Like it's a book that, men can read as well, but it's primarily aimed at women. And with this second book, it's actually has been a similar process. I get these little, it's like a vignettes, little kind of concepts like, oh, okay, I should write that down. And then when I felt inspired to, I went and looked through all the things I'd written down, thinking the guts of my next book are in here. And then I realized, no, the guts of 2 books are here. So they needed to separate out the different themes. And, basically your body as a portal to your soul is about, lots of people dislike their bodies, hate their bodies even, try to modify their bodies, try to live up to some standard that's so artificial because anybody in a magazine or, on a billboard was already exceptionally beautiful and they've been airbrushed and chins lengthened and all sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not even real, yeah? And we try to live up to that instead of, so it's like this outward looking as to what's my body supposed to look like? What is it supposed to be? When actually our bodies are this beautiful, incredible, magnificent gift from nature that are perfectly equipped to navigate 3D physical reality, right? And they will tell us how if we only listen and act on it. So it's like the less we listen or the more we ignore, the louder they have to shout. And then suddenly we get symptoms in our bodies and we go, why is my body betraying me? It's like, no, your body is trying to get you back on track. um, and a lot of us feel our guidance through our bodies as well, our intuitive guidance through our bodies. So my thing is that we need to fully embody, we need to really be present in our bodies for our lives to understand what the guidance is that we're getting from our bodies and from our intuition. And that's how we're actually going to feel alive and be present for our lives and experience our lives instead of kind of off in our minds somewhere else. And then suddenly our lives are gone. And it's like, oh, I didn't really experience it. I wasn't really present for any of it. Yeah, I think most people, based on my own experience, like this is a journey that, has taken 30 years for me or 40 years for me. And now I'm kind of encapsulating it and handing it over in a little book, Like I spent a lot of my time, especially my teenage years, feeling really numb. And I was really only present sort of from my eyes and my ears upwards. Like I didn't feel safe in my body. So I didn't want to hang out in there. And the body can do its thing for a period of time by itself, but it does need our input. It does need to get that love and connection from us to really thrive. So that's what that second book is about. And that's obviously for everyone.
I,
Yeah.
I love that so much because I feel that now is so much the time. I mean, I don't want to, put down men. So if you're listening, this is also for you guys. But I feel that the female energy is allowed to come into their own power because they have been, I don't want to say just suppressed because I feel it's a two-way street, right? Women have been suppressing themselves. I remember noticing because I'm also half Latino, and I remember because you always talk about the typical macho man, the machistas from the Latin communities, but the biggest machos are actually the moms that created those men, right? And so
Yeah.
that's why I don't want to do finger pointing, but I feel that it's so much, we're living such a wonderful time for us to embrace who we are, no matter what we look like. So it's a different kind of, like we had the emancipation sort of like 40, 50 years ago. And now we're sort of moving into this feminism, but I feel it's such a beautiful way because it doesn't just include women. It includes everybody. It allows everybody to be who they are. And I just love that you're doing this because it's so important for us to really get back to, we are not defined by our bodies, but our body is such a huge part of ourselves too. And it can help us with so many things, right? It like you said, it points us into the directions where something's going wrong. Like if I'm having neck problems, how much weight are you carrying from everybody else, and do something about it. Or I mean, I'm just thinking about Louise Hay with her,
Yeah.
our bodies telling us, and it's so important to reconnect with that. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And my thing has always been Mother Earth. Like when I was growing up, I could never understand why we didn't honor honor her. Like she gives us everything, literally everything that we have has been provided by Mother Earth. And yet we just rape and pillage and pollute and, don't care apparently. And I find that there's a parallel between how we treat Earth and how we treat women. And I totally agree with you. Like the divine feminine is kind of coming back and saying no. And, like from my point of view, patriarchy isn't good for men either. Like if you have to be the strong one, or you have to be the dominant one, or you have to be this, like they're actually much more in a box than we are, because a lot of the time they get everything handed to them, so they don't actually get the foundation to know their own true worth and capability. It's really bizarre.
Yeah.
And and then a lot of the time they really rely on their spouses, their wives. And if that spouse then decides, I've had enough of carrying the two of us, they literally don't have the tools to actually then go, okay, well, here's how I'm going to move forward. Like there's a really high suicide rate in men after divorce, right?
Yeah.
Whereas women, because, there is this suppression that goes on, or, well, certainly when I was growing up, I actually grew up in Spain, so I know exactly what you mean with the Latino kind of thing going
Hmm.
on there. Um, it's like when you sort of push, you get strong, right? And there
Yeah.
is also a really positive sisterhood there where like I've got my friends back. Like if I don't agree with what she says, nobody else is gonna know. I'm gonna deal with her that when we have a one-on-one. But I have her back unconditionally, you know. And men don't get that. They put it, well, in Australia certainly, men put each other down a lot, you know, and that's
Mm.
known as affection. So I totally agree with you that this is such an exciting time because we need to embrace our divine feminine. We need to embrace our earth. And to me, the divine feminine is about resting and percolating and playing and, you know, just leisure, you know, hanging out together, having community, just being. It's the beingness of life. And the divine masculine is kind of the action that comes from that. Yeah. So, you know, if I think of the divine feminine, this is what my next book is about, by the way. I think of the divine feminine as kind of the value, the worth, and then the divine masculine as this is what we do informed from this value. So this is, for example, if the divine feminine value is abundance, then the divine masculine is generosity. Yeah, when you
Mm.
have abundance, there's no reason why you can't be generous. And if we can all, as human beings, embrace the, you know, beingness and the doingness and have this beautiful kind of interweaving, then we're whole humans. And then we can feel our own worth and we can act in accordance with our soul. We can act in accordance with our values because basically there's no fear. Yeah. So the thing that has been running the world so far has been ego, like a dysfunctional ego.
Yeah.
Ego is fine. It's the one that makes sure we pay the bills and show up on time and all that sort of stuff. Like they kind of run our lives in a practical sense. But if they actually run our emotional and spiritual lives, that's when we get in trouble. So in that example I just gave, ego would be greed. Yeah, it comes from fear. It feels like, oh, there's not enough, and I've got to kind of keep all this stuff so
Yeah.
that, you know, I have enough. But, you know, you cut yourself up from abundance in that particular way. So, yeah, I was just wanting to say I totally agree that, you know, yes, it's in time to embrace the divine feminine and it's time to embrace Mother Earth and honor her and honor women and honor the divine feminine in men. And then having our actions arise from that. And the world would be a much more peaceful and playful place. And you know, all this need to strive and consumerism and all that stuff is going to just fall away because it's not necessary anymore, which is why I guess it got put in place in the first place. Because if you're in fear, or if you're feeling not good enough, if you're not feeling worthy and you're looking outside for validation, then you can get hooked into that machine of just consuming and believing and not looking within really, really easily.
I actually see that in myself on in my physical body when I'm not connected enough. That's what, or when I was, because now I have it. You know, I watch myself more, but you know, I have those moments where I just have to binge eat something, you know. And it was like, okay, now I did this, and now I have to, you know, either I'm frustrated, so I'm eating out of frustration, or I'm what's it called, I'm you know, giving myself a goodie because yay, I managed another week in a job that I didn't like or something. And then I was, you know, so in both ways I was eating. And for me back then, the reason why I wanted to lose weight was not mainly because I wanted to, you know, try to look better, but it was more I just want to feel good. And now whenever I just watch myself, it doesn't mean that I don't allow myself, you know, not chocolates because I really stopped eating chocolates, but still there's some sweet things that I want to have, but I'll have them one day and that's okay. And then I'll have my other days. And that's also one of the things of listening to your own body, because especially as women, or hold on, let me start with this one, because this is one thing that in a couple of years ago I participated in a women's circle teacher training because I wanted to learn to do that
Mm-hmm.
better. And our teacher told us, and I thought that was so interesting because it's not just for teaching. She said, like, you know, our personal growth and our learning in general is, you know, if you look at the masculine learning, it's a straight line up. It's just built up, it builds up until it goes to the top. But the female way of learning is a process that is like a roller coaster. It takes you up and down and back into the dark hole and back out, and it's always like this. And for me, it was very enlightening because that's how life is. That's like, if we look at the yin and yang, it's like that. It's sometimes it's on the big part, sometimes it's on the small part. And especially for us women, we have that every 4 weeks. We have a period. We have basically, if you know the four, I think you guys have it too, the four stages of the year, right? With the spring, winter, and we live that every 4 weeks. We have that, the time when life wants to come out, and the summer, and then suddenly we go back into autumn, and then we want to retrieve and now not do anything. And it's the more we understand that, because now I know also, of course I have certain binge phases where I want to binge eat and binge drink water because it feels like my body needs so much fluid. And then again, I have phases where I'm like, I'm not hungry. I don't, it's okay. I don't want anything. And I think it's all about this listening into your true self, because your body's here to hold you, to hold that beautiful soul that wanted to manifest into this world. And a belly,
I love that. Yes.
or the scratches. I could talk about that all day long, because I just no, it's so beautiful. I don't know if like, because you mentioned earlier, the whole, all the stars, and when we look at all the pictures and what are those names, all those magazines that there is. And there's one actress, and I've been following her for a couple of years now. I always call her Jamil, but I think her name is a little bit different. She created the I Way movement podcast as well, where she wants to give space for everybody. And one of the things that I loved about her was that she actually got through to a magazine not to change her picture. So she wanted, and she made an Instagram post where she shows, like, look at this arm, this is what it really looks like, because she didn't let them, how do you say, like, paintbrush over
Photoshop it. Yeah.
And I thought that was so beautiful, because that's what we need nowadays. That's what we want to teach our children and everybody that's coming, no matter if they're male, female, or whatever they feel like. It's because I've noticed with male friends of mine, they also have body issues because of all this, Adonis way of, you have to have the beach body. Everybody has to have the beach body, but a beautiful beach body is a beautiful beach body, no matter what it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So beautiful.
I think it's also, like, part of this divine feminine is acceptance. Like, I was married to a man once, and that didn't go well, and it didn't last very long. But one of the phrases he said to me was, "Well, I think I have accepted more of me than you have accepted of you," which really stuck with me, because that's like a really strange thing to say, right? And it's like, no, acceptance is actually about all of it. I have parts of me that I don't particularly like, and sometimes they come up. And that's just being human. Every single human has got the capacity to be everything any human has ever been on this planet, right? So then it comes down to choice, and if I accept that there are parts of me that are dark or egoic or greedy or any of those sorts of things that I judge, then when they come up, I can look at them and go, okay, well, is this a useful thing to be acting, a useful place to be coming from right now? And if it's no, then it's like, okay, well, thank you for your input, but I'm going to do this, And I think that all behaviors at some point in time are going to be useful at some stage, like it's just the context that makes it different, right? But if I kind of deny that it's there, if I push it away, if I put it down in the dark, the bottom of that wave, that part's going to come out and get me when I least expect it. And it's going to come from that reactive point. It's going to come from that triggered point. And then, I'm going to act in a way that's damaging potentially to myself or to the people that I'm with, or to the relationships that I'm in. So if we could, and I think our bodies are very much an expression of that, like that principle. So if we can just, like, I think our bodies love us. Our bodies are 50 trillion cells, right? 50 trillion individuals who all work together to make this body what it is. Like, there's only 7 billion people. Can we get on? No. That's 50 trillion individual citizens living in our bodies, making our bodies what they are. So, they all want to thrive. They do, what they're designed to do. And in doing so, they maintain their own life and they maintain the life of the whole. Yeah. And I think of humanity and as Earth as a body as well. We are all cells in Mother Earth's body. We're all cells in humanity. And I'm off topic now, but anyway, and if we can each do the thing that our heart desires, the things that gives us joy, the things that makes us feel alive, the things that makes us feel vibrant, then we're actually doing the thing that we came here to do. And just like a liver cell doesn't judge a nerve cell, or a nerve cell doesn't judge a liver cell, because they do completely different things and they're both necessary for everything to function, like, I don't have to judge somebody who does something that, I don't have to judge a farmer, or I don't have to judge a professor, because they do things that, I'm clearly not doing, and they don't have to judge me because I'm doing my thing, and that's my contribution to the whole. So if we can drop the judgment, if we can drop the non-acceptance, if we can go, okay, this is my body, this is my vessel, this body loves me the way that I love nature, this body loves me the way I love humanity. That might be a bit tricky at times, but anyway, let's go with nature. My body wants to thrive. And if my body thrives, then I can thrive, because it's a fun and pleasant place to be. And in that case, like, literally, who cares what it looks like? If it feels good and it's a place that you nurture and love, it's actually automatically going to start looking better, because all that love gets felt by the cells in our bodies. What we tell ourselves is something that all the cells in our bodies listen to. They get information of all the emotions that we're having, and they store the emotions that we're definitely not having, right, that we don't want to feel, that all get stored in our bodies. And they're like, okay, this thing that you put aside for later, can we process that? Because it's really uncomfortable where it's sitting right now. And most of the time we go, oh no, I'm not interested,
I know.
This is not a convenient time.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the more we ignore it, the bigger it gets. And eventually our poor bodies go, well, I've been sitting with this thing, with this energy for so long, and this is really harmful energy, so now I'm getting sick. And then we wonder why. So again, if we can actually be present in our bodies and love and appreciate our bodies, we're going to be healthier. We're going to be in a space where we can process those emotions that come up that are difficult to sit with, let's say. There's pleasant, fun emotions, and then there's unpleasant, not fun emotions. But if you allow them to be, again, if you accept them, then they will just dissipate, because you're allowing it to be. So if we can allow, if we can accept, we're going to have a so much nicer time on planet Earth. And if we can allow our bodies to be and accept our bodies to be exactly as they are, we're going to flourish. And what we look like is going to be completely non-matter, because you can see the bright light of the soul that's living in the body, and you can go, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Oh, and you're pretty too. But oh my God, you're so beautiful. And isn't it the difference that makes life interesting? Like, your face is different from mine. I'm like, oh wow, look at that. That's so beautiful. And who decides what's beautiful anyway?
Yeah.
Like, just from a physical appearance point of view, and we all just relax and just love.
Definitely. Oh, I love so many things that you're saying, because for starters, and this is something that came into my life very early in my spiritual path, when I heard about, because we're in this huge transition globally, as humanity, and we're all talking about the ascension and things that are happening, and I remember back then, and that I was like, so what's the next step? Like, where are we working towards? what's the next thing, because it sort of came up, with the whole duality at first. Well, apparently, if we don't know it because we can't go back that far, but apparently if you listen to certain Mayan calendar teachers, I remember it was 10,000 years, not patriarch, what's the female part of patriarchy? The
Matriarchy.
matriarchy. And then now we've gone through a phase of 10,000 years of patriarchy, and now we're coming out of that whole duality. So we're going into harmony, which means where everything, both of them coexist in a beautiful way, which I find amazing to live in a time like this. But also I remember back then that they were talking about creating paradise on earth, and that would be all of us, really all of us, just doing what we feel is good for us to do here, meaning following, being connected with our true guidance and knowing, hey, this is why you were brought into this. We're putting you there, or your soul is decided to come as this, to talk about a little bit more self-empowered, because sometimes I feel like if we're talking about, the universe just telling us where we're supposed to be, it's a little bit, no, we co-decided with the universe where we wanted to be. And if we would do that and just follow our bliss, follow what we love doing, like you said, that everybody, and then and I keep, whenever I talk to friends about it, it's like, yeah, but we would, not everybody likes cleaning, and not everybody likes, and like and I'm like, yeah, but I like washing dishes, so I will be the one doing at least dishes once a day somewhere. And and I also like, sometimes, because I used to work as a waitress, and I really enjoyed doing that back then. And I'm like, oh, I could imagine myself doing 1 to 2 hours of waitressing somewhere, and additionally to my official, work that I like doing as a coach. And, and I feel that if all of us would do that, really follow whatever feels right for us, we wouldn't have, people that don't have jobs, because I feel humans want to do things. It's not like we all just want to sit down. And I mean, it's important to have our, but, and another thing that I loved was not everybody would maybe work like 4 hours a day, and that will be it. So you have a lot of time during the day, like you said earlier, to just enjoy and be, and and feel the moments. And I love that you're saying it, because for me, that's the view of where we're going, or where we're working towards at this moment, is to really create a planet, and a humanity where we can all just do that. And with all the jobs happening right now, and with all the technology coming, it's actually creating space for that more and more, which I find
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, it doesn't make sense that you've got so many people not working, and so many people who do work, do the work of 2 or 3 people, and there's all this technology that could potentially do this work. Like, wasn't the whole point behind technology for everybody to actually have more leisure? Like, we seem to have less of that. We seem to have less community, less leisure, less creativity. What's this all about, And like, I'm thinking, it would be neat if we could somehow transition into a society where what's valued is contribution, right? Because that, like you said, humans thrive on contributing something valuable to somebody else, or to, the planet. So if you value contribution, it would really flip a lot of things upside down. Like, somebody who, removes the garbage actually would contribute a lot more than a banker, say, right? So it would actually flip the value structure. Yeah. And like, imagine if you didn't have money, right? Like, if everybody just got what they needed, and contributed what they could. And this sounds Marxist, but it's actually not such a bad idea, because money then has become like an entity in its own right. With, like, think about futures, right? You're trading something that somebody took a bet on. You're actually taking a bet on a bet. Like, how does that get to run our world?
I know.
It's insane, And this thing about, well, if you have a certain amount of money, having more extra money actually doesn't make you any happier. And yet we live on a planet where there's 24 people who own as much as the poorest half of all of humanity. Like, how is that okay? Like, their idea wasn't that much better. Their value as a human being isn't that much more than anybody, any creature on the planet, not just humans, you know, like all the other animals and trees and, you know, rocks that we share the planet with. Like we're all a cell in humanity's body doing different things. So why do they get to be so important and have so much power? That has never made sense to me.
Yeah.
So it's like one of the divine feminine qualities that I tune into is this value of inherent worth. You know, there's worth because you're a human being. There's worth because you're a dog. There's worth because you're a tree. There's worth because you're a rock. You know, like, and that's really all you have. That's your beingness, and then anything you do is a bonus in a way. So right now we have the ability to make sure that all the beings on the planet have what they need and can contribute what they contribute and be happy and thrive. And yet our systems are so screwed up. It doesn't make sense. And most humans that I know are well intentioned, you know, like I'm happy for my neighbor to have what they need. You know, I don't need my neighbor to not have what they need for me to be happy. You know, so this sense of community, and I think that's everything that we're going back to now. Like we're
Yeah.
really coming back to this really organic, almost like a tribal, like what really has value, you know, community, food, shelter, education, travel, depending on who you are. Those are the things of a real value. Like money is literally just zeros on a screen these days, isn't it? Like
Yes.
how does this get to run the world?
Exactly. No, and I think, especially because I feel that we make it so dependent of our own worth. Our own self-worth is so dependent
Mm,
on how much money we make. And so basically it's our energy or our paradigms that have given money so much power over us. And the more I feel, and this is also something that is shifting, I feel, in the whole financial world, and especially if we look at the whole, modern, I always want to say bitcoins, but I know, no, it's cryptocurrency, it's,
mm,
it's still sort of like money there, but it's still showing us that there's a different way. It's not perfect
mm-hmm,
yet, but it's showing us, let's move on into different kinds of ways of doing
mm,
things, because the way
mm,
we have been doing it the past hundreds of years is just not working.
mm.
And I find that is so amazing to live in this time, because we are right at the brink of this change. It's so, oh my God, we're part of it.
Yes, we get to instigate it.
Yes.
Yes, we get to dream it into existence. It's so cool.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And the more
yeah.
people of us do that. So everybody, if you feel resonance with this beautiful picture of paradise where everybody's just doing whatever they like and having a lot of leisure time for themselves and to be creative, please put all your intention into it. Let's create a wonderful, peaceful world on this planet.
Oh, please, let's. Yes, yes.
And another thing
Ah, yes.
Another thing that you were saying that resonated with me extremely, with accepting the emotions and the energies surrounding us, when instead of pushing them away. Because this is also one of the first things that I tell my clients, and I start off with this is really the moment you start, because especially for empaths, because we have this
Mm,
overwhelm of energies and of emotions, of everything around us. So we sort of learn from little, from early on, we sort of learn to hold it away from us.
mm,
But one of the things that I learned for myself, and this was also one of the very first things, was to allow the emotion to look at it. Just like you said, just to allow that emotion to be. Like, if I feel something, and at the beginning I might, blame it on, oh, that's the anger of that person over there. That's still okay. There's this anger and it wants to come into my system, or it is in my system. It's holding on to my anger as well, right? So it's becoming bigger because of that. So I can decide to either push it away, or, like you said, just look at it, just give it
mm,
space and allow it to be. And for me, I would say 50% of the unhelpful emotions that we have just float away, just because I'm allowing it to have space, right? Because it's just looking at it.
yeah, yeah. I see emotions as feedback. You know, like if you get an emotion, like in a kind of non-triggered state, if you get an emotion, it tells you, like if you're sad, it's like, oh, you know, right now you're letting go of something. Or if you're happy, it's like, wow, this really resonates with my soul. Or if you're angry, there's a boundary that's been crossed and I need to reinforce that boundary. So if the emotions are flowing healthily, it's really neat, you know, like you kind of go, oh, okay, right now I'm this, you know. It's when we, like you're saying, it's when we resist them, it's when we tuck them away that we get into trouble. And there's so much energy that goes into resisting. And that's energy that's tied up, and that's energy that you're not using for purposes that are more in alignment with who you are. And we get taught in society, like women get taught, oh, it's not cool to be angry, and men get taught, oh, it's not cool to be sad. So, but that doesn't stop you being a human and having those emotions. So it's a real way of suppressing ourselves and each other. And I guess the unpleasant part then comes in when those emotions kind of get triggered or released, and suddenly they come up, and it's all of your whole life's worth of whatever that emotion is. It's like, holy cow, that's so huge, I can't deal with it. But you know, if we can just go, like, that's one of the practices I've done for the last year or so. Like, I've got lots of techniques to kind of integrate emotions, but for the last couple of years, I've played with, okay, here's this emotion. Okay, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let it be. And it dissipates. And sometimes it's quick, and sometimes it takes a day or two where I'm in this kind of strange mood and going, okay, I'm in this strange mood. And so not resisting it and not judging it is really helpful. And then all that energy suddenly frees up, and you're another level more magnificent, and it's awesome.
And it creates so much ease within your own
Yes.
body, within your soul. It's like no more baggage. It just
Yes.
floats by. And like you said, sometimes it
Yeah.
takes a day or two, and sometimes it's 10 minutes. But
Mm-hmm.
it just,
Yeah.
you know, I,
And you take stuff a lot. Oh, sorry.
no, no, no,
You
you
go.
go.
You can take things so much less personally as well. Like if somebody's, you know, triggered and they're having some sort of emotion, if you're in the clear yourself, you can see that they're having a thing without actually taking it on and making it about you and all that sort of thing. So you can just go, okay, well, that person's having this experience right now, and that's okay. But it's not me. It's them having a bad day. And that makes life so much easier too, when we can step into this thing of life is happening for me, not to me. You know, so you're either not reacting, or if you're reacting, going, oh, okay, so what's actually coming up for me right now? What's this portal of healing that's presenting itself to me that I will accept?
I'm going to breathe that in. Dear empaths, dear highly sensitives, that was very important, because this is what actually, you know, helps us transform for ourselves as empaths, because otherwise we're fighting ourselves to keep everything away. We're resisting. And, you know, I hear about, you know, I have to go and protect myself from the outer world. But that sort of makes everything worse, because that's how you get overwhelmed, that's how you get tired. And if you allow it to happen, if you just allow it to be there with you, if you, like you said, and this is one of the things, and I remember the first time it happened to me, because of me allowing emotions to, you know, to look at the emotions that way, or the energies that were coming, you know, were around me. And I remember that very first time when I was in a space where I was like you said, actually, two people were discussing, almost fighting with each other, you know, triggering, and I could see the triggers and I could feel their emotions, but I knew, not mine. I don't, you know, like I don't. I could, if I want to, I could decide to, you know, start going in there, you know, and get grab into the fight. But I was like, I don't feel like it. I don't want, you know, I don't want to take it on. It's not triggering me. I see what's happening with them. Let them have it. And I'm just going to wait here. And it's so beautiful, because that's so empowering, because that's the decision that
Mm.
we make, right?
Yes. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah. Really cool. Really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, none of us are perfect at this all of the time either. You know, like we all get triggered, but I think it's also a practice thing, because you know, we, like I said, we are the path forgers here. We're the spell breakers. We are the ones that are, you know, making, you know, creating a new way of being in the world. So we kind of in a way, but not really, inventing things from scratch. So we're breaking the conditioning that we've grown up with. So that becomes easier and easier and easier as more of us do it. And it's an awareness of the morphogenic field. You don't have to engage with somebody else, especially when you're an empath, when they're having a thing. They can process their own emotions. And in fact, you disempower a person if you do try to process something for them, because it means they don't get the learning that goes with that.
Yeah.
So for me, some of the things that have, or the one thing that has helped me the most along the way is gratitude, actually gratitude as a practice.
Yeah.
And just really, I actually did a gratitude diary for, I think it was over a year. And I was given this concept by a colleague and a friend. And I started by writing, I am grateful for, and then bullet points, you know, my house, my dog, my husband, hot water in the shower. And then I thought, this isn't quite working. So then I went to writing, I am grateful for my husband. I am grateful for my dog. I'm grateful for my shower. And actually by writing, I am grateful that many times, it became an affirmation, and it became something that really cemented itself in my body. And literally, if you come from a place of gratitude, which is also very divine feminine quality, if you come from gratitude, it's like either I'm having a lovely time, thank you very much, or I'm having a really shitty time, and there's a real present in this. And when I'm through this, and when I've processed this and understood it, there's going to be this massive gift at the other end, and I'm going to love myself more, and I'm going to be more in integrity and more in alignment with my soul, and that's going to be so amazing. And I wonder what that's going to feel like. Then really you can't lose, right? And the magic of gratitude is the more grateful you are, the more you have to be grateful for. So I would really recommend this as a practice to anyone. And it doesn't necessarily have to be big things either. Like if you have food on your table, somebody who cares about you, and a home, a house, a shelter of some kind, and even if you have money in the bank, you're way ahead of like the vast majority of the people on the planet, basically, especially if we're also not in a war zone, right? So anything other than that is basically a problem of affluence. The only ones worth having are my dad. Like, you know, will I buy a new iPhone or not? Like, that's a really cool problem to have, right?
Yeah.
So if you can be grateful, for all the little things, if we can just, well, wow, I've got two hands and look at what they can do. Like, that's amazing. Not everybody has two hands. If we can be grateful for the little things, we'll get bigger and bigger things to be grateful for. And you're doing it right if you get tears in your eyes. That's when you know you've really got the energy of gratitude, because you just feel so blessed. And that would be my recommendation. Start with gratitude. If all humans could practice gratitude, again, this planet, just that one thing would transform the planet. We would be grateful for trees for giving us oxygen instead of cutting them down, so we can buy a 15 house villa, right, or mansion.
Wow. I know, and like I love that you just mentioned nature, because that's like for me the first go-to gratitude things are, you know, well, okay, no, sorry, the first ones are my nieces at the moment, because they're 3 and 1.5. So I'm counting every kiss, every hug that I get from them without me asking for it. Just, you know, when they just come up and just hug me, and I'm like, oh, thank you. but, but the second one is nature, because since I've been living in the countryside here in Germany for the past 3 years, and it's amazing. But even no, sorry, because I also have a nomadic side, so I've also been traveling, and it doesn't matter where I am. It's always birds, you know, because birds are the easiest to spot everywhere. I go scuba diving. I love scuba diving. You know, all the fishes that I see, and especially my favorites, the octopi. No, well, you know those, and
Octopuses, yeah.
yeah, and or any kind, even the smallest or biggest. I'm just like, oh my God, in awe of this beautiful, you know, gift of nature. And then where I'm living here right now, we have so many wonderful birds, you know, like storks and Milan. I haven't found the German name for that one, but you know, so many wonderful animals, and then sometimes you'll get a beautiful rain, or sometimes you'll get a beautiful sunset, and then you have a person smiling at you in a train. That's so many beautiful things to be grateful for, because
Mm,
tiniest things. um
mm,
and I don't know why it's coming up, but I'm gonna say it. There's a Bavarian he was a comedian, but he had really,
mhm.
like, some of his sentences, or the things that he would say, because he's already, he that was back in the 50s or even earlier. And he has one saying: "I'm happy when it rains, because if I'm not happy, it's still gonna rain." And he is so
Very true.
right. And he's so right,
Mhm.
because it's everything. And it's like you said earlier, being happy, being grateful, even for the not so beautiful things in our lives, because they're there, because they're going to show me something. And they're
Mm,
just there to help me grow. If they wouldn't be there, I couldn't grow. That wouldn't make any changes, right? And growth means for us to evolve, to have those changes in our lives. And it's wonderful. Like you said, I love that also. That resonated with me so much, because I haven't met a teacher that has been fully 100% enlightened. Like, they've all had their own triggers, and their own human sides, which is beautiful, because we are humans. And that's why I'm saying, for us, I mean, as the ones that are facilitating all these movements and transformations, we might not be 100, like 100% trigger free, because we still have our own things. But the thing is that we have, over the years, we have practiced so much that once a trigger comes in, we don't it doesn't become that big anymore like it used to,
mm.
right? It's just,
Yeah.
it's easier and faster to notice and to see. And the
Mm.
wonderful thing about us is that, because we have that experience, we can teach everybody else to get there faster than we did, because we had to practice by
Oh,
ourselves first.
amen. Yeah. Like, do you know, I think if we wanted to experience perfection and nonstop bliss and beauty, and we wouldn't have dropped into a human body. Like, the
Yes.
purpose behind being here is to experience imperfections. It's to see the stuff that's wrong and still have gratitude and peace and love in your heart. Like, it's, if we don't have duality, we don't have choice. If we don't have duality, like, if we don't have good and bad, we don't have duality. So I'm sure that at the beginning of our lifetimes, you're like, oh, this is so exciting. I'm going to be in this human body and I'm going to get all these choices I can make. And depending on what choice I make, my life's going to go this way or that way. But I will have the opportunity to experience grief so that I can find meaning and joy in having been with this creature that I've lost, human or otherwise. Or, I'm going to be confronted with evil so that I can then decide to stay in my truth and own my power and be true to myself. Or I have the option of going with whatever evil wants me to do and experience that. And then eventually I will come back to, when it goes too far, right? Then I will come back to, actually, no, that doesn't work for me, and I'm going to stand my truth. But, like, if that didn't present itself, if we didn't have evil, we couldn't choose good, right? And if you take it to a slightly higher perspective, good and evil are just two coins of the same, the two sides of the same coin. So, like, I always think, if you can kind of hold the higher perspective, and like we said before, go either, oh wow, this is awesome, or oh wow, I'm not getting a new gift here. Then you take the whole duality like a step back. And if you can understand that everybody that's on the planet is actually just doing what they came here to do, they're playing a role they came here to play, then I find it in my heart to be grateful for the people that I disagree with or judge, because, if they're doing it, means I don't necessarily have to. I can kind of deal with that vicariously.
Yeah.
So, and, ultimately everything is energy.
Yes.
Like, matter is just really, really slow energy. So everything is energy. And if everything is energy, everything is love, everything is God. It just looks different from one to the other.
Yeah.
But, thinking about this ex-husband again, like, he did me a massive service. I got like 20 years of personal growth in 2 years from that dude, you know, like he really pushed me to the edge. And, you know, I remember being at this point where I was like, if I bend any further, I'm going to break. And I'm actually not prepared to do that for anyone. So he kind of really pushed my self-worth down so much that I bounced back and said no. And that was the beginning of me realizing that everything I had been taught was not useful, and kind of sifting through what's useful, what can I keep, and what's not useful, and what do I put in place instead of. Like, I wasn't aware of that at the time. But if he hadn't taken me there, it would have probably taken me another 10 years to be taken to the point where I was going to say no. So, you know, even that experience I'm grateful for, even although it's the most horrible time of my life. So if we're here as humans, we're here to experience being human and to love with or despite all the imperfections, to offer compassion to people that we don't feel are doing the right thing. Doesn't mean necessarily have to engage with them, but if you can just have compassion and understand that what they're doing right now is something I could potentially be doing as well under certain circumstances. You know, acceptance, inclusion, if we can hold those frequency in our hearts. And I always find gratitude the easiest. When acceptance is bad, maybe go for gratitude and then acceptance will flow. That's just me. So if you can hold gratitude in our hearts, despite things being difficult, then that will change ourselves, and it will change the people around us, because they see that modeled and they feel that frequency, and they then up level, and then eventually it'll be the whole world. And it doesn't have to take all that long.
No, and I find it interesting that you were saying this, because one of the things that I've noticed, or that's one of the things that I learned from the whole Ho'oponopono that we were talking about here.
Yes.
The more I heal those emotions within me, within myself, suddenly my surroundings start acting different.
That's
And
right.
in most of the cases, and in a few little ones, the surrounding stays, you know, doing their own thing that was hurting me, and then, but it doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't trigger me anymore. I'll just, you know, or maybe even, you
Yeah.
know, like the universe just lets us shift apart, and it's okay. But
Yeah.
what I loved about that, and this was one of the most empowering things, and I think that's also what you're saying. The more we heal those things and change that, make that shift within us, suddenly around us things are happening, you know, like you said, people that don't resonate with us anymore, because they did their job, they came here, they triggered us, and then they leave. And that's okay, you know, and it's okay. But then again, sometimes, you know, you have situations where you change your shift and suddenly you realize, oh, that person never meant it that way, just, you know, I just
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
it that way because it kept triggering my problem.
That's
And
right.
and
Yeah.
that's also another movement towards peace, because it gives us this,
Yes.
I don't have to fight, I don't have to argue, I don't have to judge any, I don't have to do anything, I can just sit here and watch. And it's so
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh, Iris, this is so beautiful, and I think we could probably talk another hour. But I don't want to make,
Easily, I guess.
yes, but I don't want to make it too long for our listeners. But I would love for you to tell us a little bit about how, like, if some of our listeners go like, "Oh my God, this Iris was so resonated so much with me. I'd love to work with her." How can they find, like, what is it that you offer? How can they work with you?
Well, I offer workshops, and they can be done online, so you don't have to be in my vicinity. And the place I'm most consistent about advertising these is on my Facebook page called Passion to Thrive. And I'm also I'm launching my new book, Your Body is the Portal to Your Soul, and I'm actually creating a course with that as well. So that will be on my website, just irisangelys.com. And I have a fairly active YouTube channel as well that has a ton of meditations and podcasts and all sorts of really yummy things that you can dive into. There's also I think there's 2 meditations on there that are all about body gratitude and appreciation. So one's, I think, only 8 minutes long or something like that. So that's a really nice little practice to start with as well, to make peace, make friends with your body.
I love that. So we're gonna leave, like, if you're interested, we're gonna put it all in the show notes for you guys to find, so that you can see and listen to the meditations and maybe even attend the workshops. Oh, I love that so much. Iris, do you have like one last message for our listeners and for our viewers?
Just follow your heart. It knows. Your heart just knows.
Mm,
And the more you follow your heart, the easier, more pleasant, and brighter your life is. And mind you, just because something is the right thing doesn't necessarily make it the easy thing, but it will definitely make it the most rewarding thing. So that's a little caveat there. If you you've got to do the work if you want to get to the bliss. Otherwise, it's just pretend
yeah.
and practice gratitude.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And just to add to that last one, um, the thing is that it might look more, harder the path, or different, more difficult, but I feel that going through that difficulty for a short time is less hard on us, because if we would stay where we are, that's way more exhausting. So it's,
Oh, amen. Yes, amen. Ain't that the
so,
truth? Yes.
yes. Oh, Iris, this was so beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. It was so beautiful and wonderful to meet you and have this conversation.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners and viewers. You'll find all the links below. And as always, serve your energy wave. Bye, everybody.
Bye.